Hello and welcome to the world-famous and award-winning Driving You Crazy podcast. This is the show where we talk about all things transportation, anything that gets you from here to there. I'm the traffic anchor and the transportation reporter for Denver 7 News, Jason Luber. If you would like to be part of the show, you could sure give me a call on the listener hotline, 303-832-0217. So today on the show, I want to play an interview I did with a couple of guys that are involved in the TV show called Hearts of Heroes. Now, I've never heard about this show before. I had never seen it. I was surprised to learn that it actually airs on my TV station Wednesday mornings at 9:30 a.m. I was contacted by a PR agency that was running a junket. Basically, it's where an interviewee, or in this case, two interviewees, they sit in a room for a couple of hours, and then they are interviewed by a bunch of different local television stations from around the country. And usually these windows are 10, maybe 15 minutes, something like that. Sometimes the station will do it live. A lot of the times it's taped. And you see it a lot with actors promoting a movie where they are sitting in a room and then an interviewer comes in, talks to the star for 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, and then leaves. And then here comes another person, and then another one, and then another one. And in this case with me, on this interview, one station connects with these guys, and then they talk to that person or that station for a few minutes, and then they're still sitting in the same room, and then another station hooks up with them, and they do an interview, and so on and so forth. Well, I like to ask more questions and spend more time with people than just a 10-minute window. So I always request a little bit more time, and this time they did grant me 20 minutes. So the guys I talked to, the main guy I wanted to talk to is Sam Orbovich. And back in April of this year, he was involved in a crash where Sam was driving down the roadway. He was just driving home after a day at work at the law office. And there was a person, he said, that was cutting in and out of traffic and cut him off. And it ran him off the road, and he ended up wedged against a guardrail where the driver's side door was against this guardrail, and the initial impact knocked him out. So he's trapped inside this car, and then the car is on fire. It catches on fire. And he's knocked out, and when he comes to, he realizes that he's in a trapped car that's on fire, and he can see some people that have stopped, just random people that were on the highway, some good Samaritans, that were trying to get him out. But they weren't able to get him out. I saw one person try to break a window with a stick or something. But that didn't work, and it wasn't until somebody from the highway department, one of these people that travel up and down the highway. I know we have them here in Denver. They travel usually in the morning and afternoon commutes, and they work for the Department of Transportation. And they go up and down the highway, giving people gas or protecting a scene or towing or pushing a car out of the lanes of traffic to the side, right? So this guy from the highway department shows up, and he had one of these things called like a window breaker thing. Basically, it shatters the driver's side window, and so because these people that stopped, this guy who stopped and broke the window, then these other people helped get Sam up and out of the car, and maybe 20 seconds later, the car was totally engulfed in flames. So it's a really dramatic story, and he tells the story in my conversation with him, and his adventure was featured, as well as all these other people who were involved in his rescue, on this show called Hearts of Heroes, because they feature people who help others in these desperate or these emergency situations. Now, the host of this show is called, his name is Sheldon Yellen. He's the CEO of the property restoration company called Belfour. I'm sure you've seen it somewhere. His voice is more gravelly than Sam when you hear him. And it was really, I was talking to Sam for the first part of the interview quite a bit, and then Sheldon weighs in. So it was Sam and Sheldon who were on this call for this interview, and I realized that I think Sheldon was going to want to talk about the show. I didn't really care about talking about the show at all. I wanted to talk to Sam about the experience that he went through, because that is more compelling and more interesting than talking about this show. So anyway, I actually put a link to the show in the description of the show, and I also saw or found one of the videos that shows what happened. It's a YouTube video from Good Morning America that I think they interview also one of the people that helped out. But anyway, there's a link to that video so you could actually see, and it's worth seeing. It's worth seeing that video of what happened in the dramatic rescue attempt to try to get Sam out of the car, and then eventually the window breaking and getting him out. But I think it's worth seeing, and so you could find that link in the description of the show again. But because I didn't have a lot of time with them, I got right into the interview without my usual introduction. So this is my conversation with Sam Orbovich and with Sheldon Yellen about Sam's rescue and the show Hearts of Heroes.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Great. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I couldn't be better. I woke up not dead again.
Well, you got something in common with Sam.
That's my line.
Exactly. So I'm going to do I would do a little intro here, but we'll skip that for the interest of time. But Sam, I wanted to take you back into that Thursday, April 18th, where you're driving on I-94 in Metro Minneapolis. Where were you going at that time?
So I had just left my law firm. It was I had texted my wife, Cindy, at about 6 o'clock in the evening that I was leaving my law firm. I was driving down I-94 like I've done hundreds of times before, and we live in St. Paul, Minnesota, so that's where I was headed.
Now, did the drive seem normal until it wasn't?
Absolutely normal. I mean, there was no weather, no negative weather. The traffic was pretty normal up until the time that I saw, the last thing that I remember before being knocked out by the impact was a car going in and out of the lanes left to me at a high rate of speed. And that's when everything happened, I think.
So describe, if you can, and I know you blacked out for a little bit, but describe, if you can, what you remember next.
So the last thing that I remember before the impact was seeing this car, and I was listening to a newscast on the radio. The next thing that I remember was coming to, my airbag was had already deployed. It was deflated, and there were people to my left in the driver's side window, side window,
right.
And they were trying to get the door open, and they were saying, "Get him out, get him out." As I looked out the front of the car through the windshield, I could see flames already higher than the hood of my car. And then to the right, there were flames over there as well. And what had obviously happened is, if you look at the video, the fire started at the lamppost, followed my car, and then caught the ground grass on fire. So you couldn't exit the car through the other side. And I was pushing at the door, not realizing why the door wouldn't open, because I couldn't see the guardrail there. And the people were saying, "Get him out, get him out." And then a highway helper, this is a person who cruises up and down the freeway to remove debris and make sure, if you run out of gas, he'll get you gas, had a window punch on his keychain, which he had carried for 10 years and never used. Walked up to my side window, pushed it, and the whole window crumbled. And they repositioned my body, so I was awake by that point, and they pulled me out feet first. So I'm here today because Kadir, Michael, Tess, Lacey, David, and Tessa pulled me out of that car. And then it virtually exploded about 15, 20 seconds later.
Right. When you were trapped in that car and you wake up and you see the situation around you, there has to be some panic, obviously, in your system. Did you, before the window was broken from the outside, did you try breaking it? Not just opening the door, but did you try pushing the window or breaking it in any way?
I did not. And I will tell you that I did not understand or appreciate the amount of danger that I was in until a couple of days later when I first saw the video. because, like you said, I did have a little amnesia from the impact, and they had put me in the ambulance and got me to the hospital to get checked out. 4 hours later, I was home. I didn't
So you
have
really
any
weren't
severe-
hurt. You really weren't burned at all then through that entire ordeal, which is really startling.
My hair was singed. I had some abrasions on my forehead from the airbag and on my back from when they pulled me out of the car. All of my clothes reeked of smoke, but they did a CT scan, they did X-rays at the hospital, and they sent me home. I was stoved up pretty well for a couple of days.
I'll bet. So you mentioned that window punch, because it is difficult, even with just a rock or anything, to smash a window like that. Do you have one of those tools in your car right now?
So, Jason, I think one of the things Sam forgot to say was there was about a 3-4 minute period of time where 6 people were trying to break his side window. They couldn't break it. And then I think it was Kadir who ran off to look for some item, maybe a stick or stone, to try and bust the window. Even that couldn't break that window.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until David pulled up and had this little device, right here, this little device, all he had to do was tap it, and the whole thing just exploded.
Right.
And that's how they were able to pull Sam, feet first, from the car.
And in my 2 cars, my wife's car, my car, we have those now, and they're right on our
Sun visor.
sun visor.
Yeah, right.
Because you can get it easy. Because if, I was dazed and confused by this. I wouldn't have had the presence of mind to reach into the glove compartment. I've also read sometimes that what people will do is take their headrest off,
Right.
and use the 2 things to try to punch something. I didn't have the presence of mind to do any of that. I needed to rely on other people. And
Or
thankfully-
probably even to get in the back seat of the car and try to kick it out that way.
Yeah. I just don't think that because of the impact and everything, I was at the mercy of others. And thankfully, these 6 folks and a couple of others who we don't know who they are saved my life.
As we've mentioned, the rescue was all caught on a dash cam, and watching the dash cam video is really dramatic. What was it like for you when you went back and watched that video, and what was it like when it was shared with the world?
Oh, that was pretty interesting. So the first images that I saw were still photographs that were posted to the internet by neighbors along the freeway. And I thought, well, that looked pretty bad. And then my sister, I had sent an email to my law partners and my family saying that I had been rescued and given the highlights. And then my sister in Columbus, Ohio, sent me a text saying, "Did you know there was video?" And I had no idea. And I watched it and realized how close I came to death.
And I know when this episode airs, are you expecting or maybe wanting to hear from more people from around the country that might be seeing this?
Well, once my name got out there, I did, although I didn't do any interviews for weeks, I did issue a written statement that had my name, and I heard from a lot of friends and family and former clients and everything. So I think everybody kind of who knows me knows about this incident.
Then why are you telling your story now? Why did you wait until this time, 6 or 7 or 8 months later?
Well, it wasn't so much that I waited for a while because I didn't want the focus to be on me. The real heroes here that we have identified are Kadir, Michael, Tess, Lacey, David, and Tessa. And some of them were doing interviews. I encouraged them to do interviews if they wanted to, and you will hear from them in this program. I just sort of held back. And the State Highway Patrol of Minnesota asked me, they were the ones who alerted me to this program, and I agreed to be interviewed by them. And we did the interviews, I believe, in, was it May?
Yep,
And
May.
So it took a while to produce the show.
Right.
And I think, Jason,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think when you ask the question, why didn't Sam do all these interviews up till now?
Yeah.
It speaks right to his character. As he said, the real heroic people are Kadir, Michael, Tess, Lacey, David, and Tessa. These were innocent bystanders, everyday Americans from different backgrounds, different religions, different nationalities, just jumped in to save the life of a stranger. And that is the heart of the show Hearts of Heroes.
Right.
And
and
talk
even
about character.
Exactly. And even though all of those folks were unhurt, do you have any survivor's guilt? I mean, it's obviously a great situation that nobody was hurt, including yourself, but do you have any survivor's guilt?
I do have a little bit. I mean, these folks risked their lives for me. Two of them had smoke inhalation and were treated for that. All of them are in wonderful shape. They're great people. And you know, when I've had my first phone calls with them, to a person, each one wanted to know if I was okay,
Right.
as opposed to me checking on them. And thankfully I was.
Jason, one last thing I
Yes,
want
sir.
to point out. These 6 heroic people, after those tires were exploding, they were pushed away from the car 3 or 4 times. They kept coming back to that car. As flames were increasing around that car, they didn't run off. They stayed with it, trying to get him out. When they finally got him out, it wasn't 15 seconds later, that car was completely 100% engulfed in flames. 15 seconds later, we wouldn't be sitting here together.
Yeah.
These are some heroic people.
Most definitely. I'm sure they're all on your holiday card list.
Oh yeah. And I have the birth dates of every single one of them. So yes, they're going to be hearing from me a lot.
Do you know what happened to the driver that initially caused the crash?
The other thing that I was waiting for, I was hoping that maybe there might be some like CCTV video or something that might have identified and confirmed what I remembered. And the State Highway Patrol told me none of the cameras were pointed in the direction of the accident. And I have no idea of that person just was. We've all seen them race back and forth
sure.
on the freeway. And
So presumably this person doesn't know what happened to you and what the aftermath was after his reckless driving.
That's right. He was probably far off down the road.
Yeah. And Sheldon, you're obviously an expert in disaster recovery, and I'm sure you've seen what's been happening in North Carolina. Obviously, person to person, it will be a challenge to recover those folks and their property and their lives. But what does recovery look like for towns and communities as a whole down there? I'm sure stories like those could end up on Hearts of Heroes in the future.
Sure. Well, this hurricane is very widespread. If you remember, it came in the Big Bend area of Florida between Tampa and Tallahassee, went up through Georgia, a little bit left to Alabama, went up to South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and bits of Virginia. So it's a 600-plus mile wide spread of damage. And Jason, remember, power lines are down, there's no power.
Yep.
Communications down, no communication. Bridges, infrastructure wiped out. People, unfortunately, have found out we've lost over 229 people so far. There's still 100 missing and not accounted for. The search and rescue missions are still ongoing, and there's terrible tragedy. I think when you refer back to Hearts of Heroes and you hear stories like Sam's, and yes, there will be stories that will be told about some heroic people as a result of this hurricane. But I think if you just stop and think for a minute, the American spirit lives. The American people, when pulling together for a common cause, there's nothing we can't do, nothing we can't accomplish. Look here, 6 strangers pulled their cars off to the side of the road to go help save the life of somebody they didn't even know. 6 nationalities, 6 different religions, 6 different backgrounds. None of that mattered. All that mattered was that the American spirit was alive in every one of them, and they pulled together to save this man's life. That's the America that we're all proud of. That's what Hearts of Heroes gets to present every week on ABC for our 6th season. We show the good that first responders do. We show the good that lay people do in this scenario. And I just encourage everybody to prepare yourselves in the event of an emergency. David, who showed up with this little tool to bust the windshield, because without it, you couldn't get Sam out. They tried to break the windshield. They couldn't do it. It's this little tool. Everybody should have this in every vehicle they have. Every home, every family should have a pre-disaster plan in place. If communication goes down, where's your meeting place? Where do you meet your family if there's no cell tower service? We can all be better prepared to get better outcomes so we can have more reunions like Sam has had with those heroic people that rescued him.
Yeah, and stories like Sam are obviously heartwarming. They're touching. Has there been a story, Sheldon, that has touched you more than others? Have these stories changed you, hearing about over and over and over again these hero stories as you have over the last 6 seasons?
That's a great question, Jason. I've always been a great patriot. I've always believed in the good. I've always believed in the everyday person being so powerfully good and capable of achieving. And 6 seasons now of Hearts of Heroes has made me even stronger believe that we have so much good to offer each other. And you see it unfolding even in this hurricane. Neighbor helping neighbor, strangers helping strangers. If it's as small a thing as just giving a hug of hope helps. Opening a door for somebody, complimenting somebody. Just small gestures of gratitude, of thanks, make a huge difference. And I think this show, Hearts of Heroes, has brought this home to me more than ever. I know my own kids now believe in it more because they get to see it unfold in others, not me just preaching. And when you meet somebody like Sam, who turned down so many interviews because he didn't want to take away from the heroes that saved his life, talk about a heroic character. Right here he is next to me. Those 6 people absolutely are heroes. So I think it's terrific. The American spirit lives and will flourish forever. And we all got to pull together to just give each other one little extra little helping hand when we can.
Yeah, and I know we got to wrap up here with time. But Sam, do biscuits taste sweeter now? Do flowers smell sweeter now? Are you living life or remembering life more robustly now?
Yeah, I think so. And I had already planned a retirement to start on June 7th, even before the accident. So these folks gave me a retirement where my wife and I get to travel, visit family, and do some other things that I wouldn't have an opportunity to do if I was still practicing law.
What, the old Tim McGraw song, "Live Like You're Dying," right?
Yeah, that's it.
There you
got it.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, even for a short time. I wish you all the best, and congratulations on this episode, and best of luck with future episodes. I appreciate it very much.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
As you could hear, Sheldon kept trying to bring the conversation back to promoting the show, as he should, since it's his show and he pays for this show. I think it's produced by him or his company, and they're the ones who and they're, Ginger Z is a part of this too from ABC, the weather anchor for Good Morning America. But so Sheldon, being the good CEO and salesperson he is, he kept trying to bring the conversation back to the show and get people to watch it and promote the show. But I was interested, as you could tell, in hearing from Sam and hearing his story and letting him describe what happened to him and giving him the time to tell it in more detail than if we just had 10 minutes together. I thought Sam was quite compelling. I wish he was a little bit more open, but I think he also felt somewhat reserved with Sheldon sitting right next to him, that he couldn't really get into it a ton, that they wanted to promote the show, but I thought it was still compelling. And also compelling what Sheldon had to say when I asked him about restoring the lives of the people that were affected throughout the Southeast by the 2 hurricanes that rolled through there. Obviously, Florida was hit very hard. North Carolina was hit very hard. Parts of Georgia, Tennessee, other parts of the Southeast were hit very hard. And it's interesting to hear from a guy who has a restoration company, because if you didn't know, Belfour does that. They help restore your property after a flood or a fire. It's a big deal business, and they say that Sheldon is a billionaire of some sort. So he has some funds. But anyway, it's a pretty big deal business, and that's what they do. So that's why I asked him that question. Anyway, I thought it was a worthwhile interview, and since my station airs the show that I learned about on Wednesday mornings, I ran the story, I made a TV story out of this as well, and I ran it that morning that the episode aired. And as a prop, I bought one of those window punches, because they come in all kinds of sizes and shapes. They're mostly pretty small. They're relatively inexpensive. The one I got was on Amazon for $9, and you just keep it nearby in the car. Some people say don't put it in the glove box because maybe that's too far to reach, because it also had not only the way to break the window in your car, but also it had a razor blade in there that can cut your seatbelt off if you're trapped where, let's say, the part of the car crushes around where the seatbelt latch is, so you can't push the button to get the seatbelt undone. The way to get out then, because sometimes it's designed to hold you in there and lock you in that seat. So you would have to cut yourself out, and this device, the one that I had, my little prop that I brought on TV, has a way to cut a really sharp blade there to cut the seatbelt away from you, and then you can punch the window out, and then you can try to get out. And mine, the one I got, I think I said it was $9, and you just keep it somewhere around. Some people say they keep it on the visor or right next to the shifter, something like that, because windows are harder to break than you think. I mean, especially hard if all you have is a hand or a foot. So this little device can be a lifesaver. Anyway, I bought one. I brought it. Actually, I put the link in the description. I'll put in the description of the show a link to the actual one that I got. So I'm not recommending it or endorsing it, because I had never used it before. I did do some experiments, and I did punch it on my thumb, and it hurt pretty bad. But what I did is, on TV, I got a little piece of wood. And then I would push it onto the piece of wood, and the spring would pop it, and actually put a dent in the piece of wood, and you could hear it pretty easily. But yeah, I think my finger still hurts because of it. Anyway, so I was using it as the prop on TV, and then Nicole Brady, one of our morning anchors, who I've had on this show many times in the past, she took it. I mean, she was basically insistent on having it. So I couldn't keep it for myself. I had to give it to her. That was the way it was. She wanted it, and she had it. So, I mean, really, at the 5:30, because I did it at 5:30, at 6:30, and 7:30, and she, at the 5:30 one, she wanted to keep it. I said, I have to do this report again 2 more times. And so she barely gave it back to me so I could use it. But she took it. I mean, I hope maybe it'll save her life one day, or somebody in her family. But me, I guess I'm dead meat to her. Well, no, I'm sure I could go pick up another one for $10 on Amazon. Anyway, thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. And until next time, I'm Jason Looper, the traffic guy. Be safe, and as always, happy motoring.